Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn Series. SpotOn has the best-in-class platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom and pop restaurants. To learn more, go to spoton.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done For You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Peter Demas is the president and CEO of Demas's Brands and Demas Family Kitchen, owning 5 restaurants across Middle Tennessee and hoping one more on the way, including PDK Southern Kitchen and Pantry, and multiple other businesses. He entered the family restaurant business at age 12 when he started working as a dishwasher in his dad's Western Sizzlin' restaurant. From there, his experience in the food industry and serving others gradually grew. He went on to earn his Doctor of Jurisprudence degree, during which time he discovered that he could better fulfill his passion for helping people in the food industry. His latest professional pursuit is the release of his compelling debut book detailing his journey from fear-filled to fearless. It's called Afraid to Trust. Hey, Peter, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Good. Thank you. Hey, tell me a little bit more about your entry into the restaurant industry when you were young.
So my father was a Western Sizzlin' franchisee. He was a third generation restaurateur. He left the restaurant business for a bit and got back in it with Western Sizzlin' and brought it to Middle Tennessee. So that's how we ended up in the Nashville area. And about 12 years old, I would work summers, started washing dishes, then working as a fry cook and, working the salads, et cetera. And then when I got old enough to go work on my own, I didn't want to work for him anymore. So I started working at other places like I worked at Bonanza Restaurant. I worked at Perkins. I worked at Houston's restaurant when I was in college. And so just so any time I had, I just kind of worked different restaurants around the time and became a lawyer. And one day I just said, you know what, when I was even practicing law, I was still working part-time in my parents' restaurant. And I just said, I just don't want to be a lawyer. I was listening to some conversations that were taking place, and I was like, I just don't want to have that conversation. And 10 years from now, and it wasn't a bad conversation, it wasn't anything bad. It was just like that was just kind of my clue of that's not where I want to be. And so I called my father up and said, hey, I'm interested in coming back if you want to have me. And what I didn't know was that he was getting to an age where he was looking for someone to buy the restaurant. And so that gave him the opportunity for me to come back in instead. And that's where it kind of goes from there. So that's how I ended up kind of getting back into the restaurant business from that point.
Okay, great. How important would you say your father was in your professional background?
Both my father and mother for various reasons. So, but extremely important. My father taught me how to run a business. My mother taught me how to, because she became a dining room manager for my father and was instrumental at creating the systems that we have for Demas's. And so like Sunday morning, she and I would open the restaurant together, and then we would, if we hurried fast enough, we would go across the street to Hardee's, get a chicken and biscuit and sit down, and then we would argue over what servers were good, what servers weren't good, how to manage people, et cetera. And she really kind of taught me how to manage people. So she really taught me how to run a dining room and how to pay attention to details and that type of stuff. So they were both instrumental in different ways in getting me to where I'm at right now.
So when you originally decided to get your law degree, what was your intention at the time?
So I originally wanted to become a lawyer back in, let's see, I probably was in middle school when I wanted to be a lawyer. My father is one of the few times I was allowed to skip school without being sick. And he was being sued, actually. Well, no, he was a witness in a criminal case. It was a fraud criminal case. And the the defendant wanted to represent himself, so he was calling everybody as witnesses, and my father was one of them that he called as a witness. And I was so fascinated with the whole process. It really, really was intriguing to me. And so at that point in time, I started reading books on law and reading books about lawyers, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to go into law to really help people, and that's why I chose to go into that profession. So again, I worked as restaurants, even law school. I worked as in restaurants, and then as I moved from that, and again, I recognized at some point in time that in the restaurant business, we have the ability to help more people than we do as a lawyer. And lawyers help people. Don't get me wrong. It's not the fact that they don't, but they do a much better. Restaurants impact people's lives, whether it's our employees or whether it's our customers. We have an impact on them, and if we choose to, we have an impact in a tremendously positive way. Many of the restaurants I worked at did not have that. They didn't have that mentality, but that was the reason why I chose to go back into that business. And and I will say, even if I choose to leave the restaurant business, I will end up going into something where, again, I can have an impact in people's lives.
Mm-hmm. So you eventually decided that you didn't want to become a lawyer.
Well, I am a lawyer, so I did become one.
Right. But
you didn't stay one. I'm not.
Right. Yeah, not permanent. Not having it as your permanent.
I don't
vocation.
like to admit that out loud, though. So you just tricked me into doing that.
So how has getting your JD helped you fulfill your passion for helping people within the restaurant industry?
I don't know if it. Where being a lawyer has helped is there's been several areas. Is that in the restaurant business, we are scrutinized by so many government agencies, city officials, state officials, federal, and there's all the administrative agencies within each, and so you have those, and then when you're dealing with a lot of employees and a lot of customers, particularly in the litigious age that we're in, you get sued a lot. And so it's very helpful and very beneficial to kind of understand and see it. And it's kind of neat for me to have other people, come in from other restaurants and say, oh, you can't do that, it's against the law. And I'm like, actually, it's not against the law. These larger corporations sometimes set out blanket statements because either that may be the law in California, and they have restaurants in California and here, and therefore they have to kind of just make a blanket law and not state specific, or they just don't want to take any chances. And so they say, okay, look, we're just going to make this a blanket law. Whereas with us, we have a little bit more flexibility. And because of that background, we can do certain things. But I was also able to use the law degree to do things like the unemployment law that's written right now was one that was drafted by me. It was a lot of changes to it, and a lot of people were instrumental at getting it passed. But in order to be able to help us kind of and help our industry as a whole, and not only not rising the unemployment insurance, but also in order to keep people on our payroll more instead of people that were gaming the system at that point in time and trying to move from place to place.
Was there kind of a circumstance that you realized that you would really miss the restaurant industry as you were pursuing an alternate career, or that was a way that you really like to help people?
It was there was kind of really two factors. I was sitting and listening at my desk, and I was listening to a conversation, and just realized I didn't want to have that conversation in 10 years. It was just one of those that you're just sitting there and you're just like, it's just kind of just not where I see myself. That was part of it. But the other part of it was the days I worked in the restaurant part-time, I didn't get tired. Like when I practiced law, about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I wanted a nap. And the days that I could leave and go work in the restaurant that night and close the restaurant down, I didn't get tired at all. And the energy level at night was just tremendous. And I like to joke and tease people, et cetera. And you have that opportunity in the restaurant. So I would go there, and it was just kind of fun, and you could just talk to people and just kind of be yourself, where with law, you had to always maintain a level of professionalism at all times. And it was just a little bit more difficult to relate to some of the people that I couldn't. So but there was not like one specific thing where I was like, oh, it was this person on this time. It was just a lot of little factors. And it was just a realization one day that this is where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about PDK Southern Kitchen and Pantry and what a customer can expect when going to one of those locations?
Yeah, so it's a fast casual restaurant, which means that it's one of those that you pay at the counter first, and then we'll deliver the food to you. We give you a number, and then we'll bring the food out to you. But one of the things that recognized was that um, uh, that with fast casual, I did a research on the top 50 fast casual restaurants. And of those 50 fast casual restaurants, 37 of them specialized in one item that consisted of four things. It was either burgers, sandwiches, breakfast, and Mexican burritos of some kind. And then I was thinking it got like down to 43 items when you throw chicken in the mix. But all 50 did one item. And we recognize that one of the things that makes us very good at Demos's and every concept we've ever done was the speed of service in which we can get items out. And so I was looking at it, and I'm like, we have an ability to have more of an eclectic menu, and it's a Southern menu. But it's eclectic in the sense that we have chicken, we got burgers, we got salads, we got sandwiches, we got shrimp and grits, chicken and waffles, hot chicken. Just an assortment of items that we can do, and we can get the items out within between a 6 and 8 minute total ticket time. So by the time that a customer can come, they can get their food and leave, but it also allows them a variety. So like one of my kids loved burritos, the other one loved chicken. And so it was always a battle whenever we would pick our kids up from a game, late at night, and it's like 7 o'clock. They still got homework, so we just had to grab food fast, and we didn't want to go through just the drive-through, at a fast food restaurant. And so it was just gave everybody an option that we had, and that was one of the things we wanted to create was that option.
Great. So this idea, you're the one that started these PDK Southern Kitchen and Pantries.
My wife and I did. Yeah, Kristen was also very instrumental. So she deals with a lot of our marketing and brand management of it. Kristen also has a business where she helps businesses create their purpose statement, their values, their mission statements, and does that. So she does facilitation, helps them with SWOT analysis. So she does that. So she's instrumental in kind of helping get what was in my head kind of out on paper, et cetera. And then again, she did the design and the decor of it, in addition to feedback of other things that's particular in there. We also have a gift shop component, so people can come in there and just buy gifts. And we a lot of those gifts that we have are from local places or maybe from nonprofits that will help kind of support their organization. And so she's been instrumental too of ensuring that we have the right amount of gifts and it's kind of decorated, et cetera. And we have people hired for that type of stuff, but she's over all of that as well. So she's been extremely critical in the opening of this.
I'm guessing you started with one location. Where was that, and what were the early days there like?
So we started in Bellevue, actually, Bellevue, right outside of Nashville, and then a year later we opened up in Mount Juliet. And so we actually went into Bellevue because they were building the Ford Ice Center that was there. There was a brand new movie theater in the area that we were in, and a hotel was supposed to be built long before we went in. Well, the Ford Ice Center was delayed over a year. The hotel that the guy went through 5 contractors, so it took forever to get built. And by the time those 2 got built, we only had a couple months before COVID hit. So yes, so what we went to Bellevue for, and the reason why we picked those areas just kind of went out the window. So in restaurants, it's always hard the first year or so, and then you're trying to figure out, especially it's a new concept, what works, doesn't work, what menu items people don't like, they do like, et cetera. And by the time you kind of think you start to get it figured out, COVID came and just changed the rules for everybody and everything. And then our Mount Juliet store, matter of fact, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary under lockdown. Like we weren't even open
Wow.
on the 1-year anniversary. So, and then we have a third one that's opening up on Charlotte Pike in Nashville right now. Or is being constructed right now.
What about Demos Family Restaurant? What can a customer expect when going there?
So that one's we've been around. That's the one my parents started. It's been around for it'd be 33 years in December, so 32 and a half years. And it's a full service restaurant. It also has an eclectic menu with steaks, seafood, pasta, chicken, but we have no fried food. And so originally when it opened, it was Demas's Steak and Spaghetti House. And then we just moved it to Demas's Restaurant because so many people just assumed we were Italian. And so we wanted people to try the other areas or the other items that we had. And so that's where a lot of that comes from. And, but we have everything from, again, pot roast and, our steaks are hand cut and seasoned with our special seasoning. We marinate them in our particular marinade. And, so there's a lot of different things, but probably our most popular item, which wasn't intended to be, was our soup. We have a baked chicken and rice soup, which we ship all over the nation, and including our spaghetti sauces and a couple other items. And you could do that through our through Demas Family Kitchen website. Where you can get it and we ship it anywhere.
Oh, wow. How has COVID or how did COVID end up changing the operations of all your restaurants? You talked about how it affected you a little bit already.
I guess, during COVID, there was a lot of things that were playing into it, which is, again, just trying to figure out what rules, regulations in Tennessee. The counties were all different. So each county could rule in a different way. So wherever location we were in, we had to figure out what was going on there and trying to know what we can do, can't do. Dealing with customers who thought you were going too extreme one direction or too extreme the other direction. And then so a lot of that was taking place. And we started doing curbside, and that's when we got Uber Eats in to deliver food. And so we did a lot of that type of stuff. But since then, but the impact of COVID has really been more negatively impactful after things started returning to normal, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. Because at that point in time, we have seen two things. We've seen customers that where customers always got angry, and probably the same percent always got angry. The way they portray it is tremendously worse. And the way so I have a son who's 19 who's working part-time as a manager right now in one of our locations, and I got a daughter who's 17 as a cashier. And the stories they come back with, what customers say and say to them and do to them, is unreal. And I've been in this business a long time, and I've dealt with my share of really bad, crazy, angry customers. But the volume of it seems to be more, and the intensity seems to be more. And then obviously it's a problem across the nation with every industry, which is labor. And so trying to figure out how to do more with less, figure out, okay, do we shut down this week because, we don't have people? Do we, how do we, how do we make certain that people get trained properly and not sacrifice training because you don't have the people and you want to get them in rotation as fast as possible. So we've had to try to figure out how to really maintain the training. And then the last one is the supply chain, and the figuring out what you're going to be short or not short. Now, back in October, we created what I call the Genesis 41 plan, and that is a plan where I was reading in Genesis 41 where Joseph tells Pharaoh, "Hey, we got 7 years of famine coming up after 7 years of good years, and so start stockpiling." And so we started doing that with all of our non-perishables, and I got 7 storage units, and we have everything from straws to to-go boxes or whatever it happens to be. And so when our distributor runs out, we have a supply that we can provide ourselves. And then when the distributor gets it back in, we replenish our storage units. And that's been instrumental in helping our employees. Frustrating it is when you run out of trash bags, or you can't get a broom, or the saran wrap, you got to use 2 12-inch wraps instead of 20, and it's that type of stuff. And it's just been really, really helpful in maintaining our morale of our staff and just being able to provide them the ability to take care of our customers.
Is this, you mentioned kind of a change in customer behavior or comments that customers would make? Is this regarding COVID, or kind of you just noticed the tenor of the comments changing as a result?
It's anything. I mean, it's really odd. So, for example, we had the most recent example I can think of is we had a customer that was angry. They came in with a 20 top. We can't open up all the areas because we don't have the staff for it. And so we had a certain area shut down, and we told them the wait time. And we had a table that was we had to separate them into several tables to pull together, and one table just wouldn't get up. I mean, just sometimes that just happens. And we had gone over the wait time. We were communicating with them saying, hey, it's only one table, this is what happens, et cetera. Well, when the table got up, two managers ran over to clean the table. We had the host clean the table, and then they ran to go see them. Well, by that time, the customers started leaving, and my son again, tried to chase them out and literally caught them in the street. It's a side street, so it's not like it's busy, like a busy road type thing. He's dodging traffic, but it was still, he caught him in the street and tried to convince them to come back in and say, look, we got it now, et cetera. And the guy just cussed him out, and then of course posted on social media, et cetera. Now the guy was very accurate on what he posted on social media, and he was right in the sense of, we quote him a certain time, it went over. But again, it was the reaction and the cussing and that type of stuff. So again, I think what's going on, and this is Peter speaking, this is not any expert at this at all, but I think people are so angry at what's going on in culture in our society, and they're so angry with everything else that's going on that they having a hard time, and they can't take it out on the people they're angry with, or they may not even know who it is. So when something like that happens, I think it fuels and just adds to the fire that's already in them, and then they explode. So again, part of our job in the restaurant is to make people, again, our job is to help people. So our job is to make certain that we make them happier. They don't come out to eat because they're hungry. They come out because they're wanting the experience. And so our job is to try to fix that as best as we possibly can. And I think that's where some of that's coming in. And, sometimes we just fail. I mean, I had a law professor say, every day doctors and lawyers commit malpractice every day. It's just a matter of whether or not it rises to a level of legal liability. I think it's true with everything. I think you've committed malpractice today, maybe whether you even caught it or not. I know I have. It's just a thing that just happens because we're human and we mess up. It's just, can we catch it before it reaches to that customer? And then I think that's where the key is on it.
When you hear about those stories, that doesn't affect your desire and passion to help people?
No, it doesn't help. No, it does not at all. Matter of fact, I want to more. I just, it may, there are times where I'll be honest, it hurts. There are times where you're just kind of like, I don't know, I don't know if this is worth it type thing. I mean, you go through those feelings and emotions. But in reality is, right now there's so much anxiety out there that there's answers for peace out there. And to me, that's kind of where the stage has to be set. That's where it has to go. So it makes me want to, for that reason, it makes me feel, I guess for lack of a better way to say, it makes me feel sorry for them. My mother used to say with grumpy customers, she's like, they got to deal with themselves 24 hours a day. You just got to deal with them for a brief period. And I think she's 100% correct on it, but at some point in time, you really got to feel sorry for them. I mean, that they can get that angry over a 5-minute difference, or they can get that angry over something really, really small. And it's generally not that small. It's a last straw type thing, and I know I have, particularly in my younger years. I know I acted stupid and inappropriate to many places and many people. And I look back on it now and I'm like, yeah, because I was just in a bad place. And I didn't know I was in a bad place, but I was in a bad place. And I think that's where some of that is so these people, they're in a bad place. And it's our job to try to just help them kind of find just even if it's 30 minutes of a good place. I mean, that does a whole lot.
Sure. Hey, can you tell me about your book, Afraid to Trust? What led to your decision to write that? And what is the primary takeaway for the reader?
Yeah. So about 9 years, a little over 9 years ago, I got saved. And whereas most of my life, I grew up around church and grew up in Christian schools, but again, just didn't have a relationship with Christ and was very angry. If you asked me, I would have told you I was a Christian, but that was a lie. I really wasn't. And when I got saved, I said, okay, we're turning everything over to Jesus. It's all his. And so that means turning our business over. That means turning my family over. That means, turning, your basic everyday decisions over. And so and during that time, I would go up and speak to groups, and people would come up and say, "Hey, I think you need to write a book." I was like, "It's just not ready for it yet. It's just not there." And then we opened up a restaurant that failed miserably, and every sense and step of the word, God saw us through this process. But what it did is when you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning crying because everything is collapsing around you, the financials, friends that were there to support you at the beginning of the business and saw it was not going to work and they left. And, so there was all this stuff that we started seeing around us, and it just God just taking away that pride and learning how to go through that process with him, that he can provide that security for you when you don't realize you have it. And so that's what the book is about. It kind of leads from the story of me becoming a Christian, hating Christians, attacking Christians, and then going all the way to how God was faithful in getting us through this season. And if it weren't for that season that God showed us the way, I don't know how we would have got through COVID in any type of sanity. But we were able to utilize the lessons from that. So that's a big component of what happened. And then it also talks a little bit about ways that we transformed our business to be a Christian business, not a business that has Christians in it, but a Christian business. And so that's part of what we've done from there.
Great. Hey, I have one more question for you, but first, tell me how people can find out more about both of your restaurants and your book.
So the where you can go is you can go to peterdemas.org. And that's my personal website. That's also if you want to book for speaking or for and so I write a lot of articles and different things, so a lot of that's on there. And then you can also but if you're interested in the restaurants, there's always Demas's Restaurant PDK. You can just kind of Google both of those and kind of find something about it, and then there's always hyperlinks to everything else, so everything has to be interconnected and woven to make sense. So that's kind of what we've had to do there.
Okay. Hey, last question. If you were to go to PDK, Southern Kitchen and Pantry, as a customer, what would be your go-to item of choice?
Wow. So there's really kind of depends on my mood. I love our PDK burger. It's nice and simple. The fries are great. And the fries are one of the few things of fries that actually, as it gets cold, it's still actually good, which is really unusual. So that to me is kind of the nice, simple go-to. Our hot chicken, if I'm in the mood for something spicy, that's also good. But then when I'm dieting like I am right now, I get the grilled salmon, because our salmon is fresh cut. It's actually, we cut it there where the customers are. They can see it if you come in the afternoon. You watch us do the prep on the salmon. But we have grilled salmon, and we either have fried Brussels or grilled broccoli that you can do with it. And you can't find that in fast food restaurants, fresh cut salmon with grilled broccoli. So that's probably my number one. That's the one I eat the most, because I diet 300 days a year and wonder why the 60 days doesn't make me lose weight. So.
Hey, Peter, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. I really appreciate your time and your thoughts and your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.